Hi everyone, my name is Gwen. I'm TABI Secretary, and I just want to welcome you to TABI Live. We're going to be talking about the Ithell Colquhoun Taro as color today. And right, so I am, let's see now, that didn't work. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Hi, Heather.
Hey.
Hi. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is Tabby's Live. We're going to be talking to Heather Jones. I'm so excited to welcome you here, Heather. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. Heather is an esotericist. She's an artist. She is the co-founder of Numinous Press. And if you follow Numinous Press here on Instagram, you will see her amazing posts on the decans. They are fantastic. 2 or 3 esoteric decks plus some pages from her great workbook, which you can see behind me and which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Numinous Press is also on YouTube. There are some great videos there, especially on color. And there is also an amazing website. So you've got to check it out because there's lots of goodies on the website. So before we get into Ithell Colquhoun and Tarot as color, Heather, would you like to say hello and maybe tell us a little bit about how you got interested in tarot and all things esoteric?
Yeah. Hey everyone. So, yes, I have spent many years interested in esoterics and tarot. I have a weird story. It's a long story, and I won't get into it today. I'll tell it somewhere else. But my family inherited a library of books that have been mine since a child. And I became interested in the pictures first and foremost of these weird books. They just kind of always stuck with me. They were some of my favorite things to look at, and kind of led to my interest in tarot. And that would have been probably about 25 years ago now that I actually first picked up a tarot deck. And it was the Thoth deck. That was the first one I picked up because
Yay!
my husband already had the book of Thoth for it. And I was like, well,
Ah,
I'll just get this one.
yeah.
I have I thought, well, I want to learn how to read these things. And then I was like, well, I can't read these things till I know what all the symbols mean. And I'm still trying to figure out what all the symbols mean. 25
Yes.
years later, that's kind of how it goes. But, and that's kind of, if you study any esoterics, one thing leads to another, one book leads to another. And
Yeah.
so over time, I started looking at other decks and then trying to put them together. And that's, I would put them into spreadsheets to kind of compare and see things. I've always been a deck comparer. And then, so that's kind of what turned into the Great Workbook. These spreadsheets and things that I created, I thought I would share with others because I was beginning to see things. When you see the bigger picture of everything all there together at once, then you definitely start to see deeper into the decks and everything. So that's really how I got into that stuff. And then now library, like you see, a bunch of crazy books.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. And then I am also a career print girl. I'm a graphic artist, and so my husband and I make the Great Workbook and everything else that help. So
Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful. And so I guess it was 2017 when Folger Press published Tarot as Color. And it's so interesting because I think my instinct is always to say Tarot of Color, but actually it's Tarot as Color. And that's the important thing, isn't it?
It is. It really is, because it is taking the idea of the tarot and what normally would be shown with archetypes,
Hmm.
and it's putting into only color. It's just
Hmm.
showing it as color only. Yes, for sure. Yeah. So the type
Yeah.
is important.
Very, yes, very much so. So I don't know if we want to. I'll just show. I've got one card here. Just in case somebody has never seen the deck. This is just an example of kind of the artwork that we're going to be looking at. So you can see that it's very different from regular tarot decks. It's very, very special. So tell us a little bit about Ithell Colquhoun and, her background. And I think Golden Dawn, was she a member, or is that a wrong time period?
No, it was the right time period, but she was never, from what I've read, I don't believe that she ever was admitted as an initiate. Yet she studied the system her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she did over the many years of her life join many different occult orders,
Mm-hmm.
but she was kind of a very independently minded woman
Mm-hmm.
and would use them till they didn't suit her anymore, and she would move on, just as she did with the surrealist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so she was born. I think I wrote it down. I don't always remember these things, but she was born in 1906 and died in 1988. And
Ah.
so she was an occultist and a surrealist painter, a
Mm-hmm.
traveler, a lover of nature, deep lover of nature and Celtic culture. But she was also a woman of means,
Mm-hmm.
and she had the ability to live this free life without the confines that a lot of people have to have for survival and money. She had money, so
Yeah.
she could travel, and she spent her whole life basically you know living out her desires and her interests in painting or
Ah.
in esoterics, and she was always caught up on the occult and the esoterics.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she is a fascinating character. She was part of the surrealist movement too.
Mm-hmm.
She was there with all the big guys and gals, but she also kind of, at one point when they didn't suit her anymore, she went her own way. That didn't mean she stopped surrealist painting or stopped
Mm-hmm.
occultism in any way. She continued. But, if there was any kind of refinement put on her, she seemed to have just bounced.
Yeah.
And moved on until she
Yeah.
found something else that she liked. So she's fascinating in that way.
Mm-hmm.
She did learn from the surrealist movement uh, the mastering the automatic process. And the automatic process
Okay.
is part of what she uses to create this deck. And so for those of you who don't know about the automatic process, it's something that the surrealists would do in writing or in painting, anything creative, where you kind of bypass bypass your conscious mind to get directly to your subconscious mind, so that
Mm-hmm.
the creativity can flow directly. And for her, I think she saw this as a sort of a way of mediumship in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going straight to the source, it was certainly a way for her to have an experience with, for lack of a better term, the numinous.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, in that process of creating, she felt it was a way to interact with other dimensions and
Mm-hmm.
entities, if you will, for sure.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. I
Right. So a little bit.
oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say it reminds me a little bit of Aleister Crowley and sort of making contact with
Mhm.
higher. Is that the same sort of thing?
It is the same sort of thing. She definitely had her own methods
Mm-hmm.
for this, though. It's kind of why, she would jump from occult order to occult order. I don't think she liked anyone telling her how she already knew what to do naturally. You
Yeah.
know,
Good. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
She had
fantastic. Yeah.
natural abilities, and she didn't want anyone squashing it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that she definitely is a force to be reckoned with, and and now we have proof of that this tarot deck is the combination of a lifetime. The tarot
Mm-hmm.
deck was done in the last decade of her life.
Mm-hmm.
She would have
Okay.
been uh, pretty elderly when this was completed, and it is the combination of everything. And it's very easy. It's very simple to miss that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it does look so simple. It looks like simple
Mm-hmm.
paintings,
Mm-hmm.
But once I broke it down, I mean, it was almost like a moment. It was a moment of excitement and almost a moment of tears when I finally saw what she was trying to do with this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Just magnificent. Yeah.
So I don't want to talk too much about her history, but I will tell people that the authors Amy Hale and Richard Shillitoe are her biographers. And if you are interested in her, please go look at their books, purchase their work, because they are the reason that we're here talking about her today. They did a lot of hard work putting her life back together, because it was in a lot of she did a lot of stuff, and it was all over the place. So yes, Amy Hale and Richard Shillitoe are great, and then Folger Press, of course, for putting the deck out, and the books that go with it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to recommend those, so
Okay.
people knew where to go.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we get into the deck?
Yeah. Let me get a drink of water here for a second.
Okay, yes.
I stop talking anymore. I was
Prepare
telling
yourself.
Glenn earlier, so all you know, that here in the mountains, we are still suffering a little bit from the Canadian wildfires, at least at the elevation I'm at. So my throat's a little dry.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So let me get my notes too. This what I plan to do then is I wanted to talk, I guess, about we'll talk about the structure of the deck first, and then we'll go into color, because it is so easy to get off. Of course, everything Kabbalistically, it's very easy to go off in tangents.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. You guys probably know, if you've ever read any Kabbalistic writer, you don't know where you are at any moment in time. I'm going to do my best not to take you on some wild Kabbalistic ride that I understand here and you guys don't know what I'm doing. So what I want to do is I want to focus first on the structure of the progression of the deck. And then we'll go in and we'll talk about the color afterwards, because the color can be a little bit more in depth. So,
okay.
So I think that's a good place to start. So I did have some little diagrams, and I'll also let you know that for me, these are backwards. I printed them out reverse so that you guys can see them. So I might mess up in what I'm pointing at, because I'm having to do this backwards. I guess practicing Hebrew a little bit makes us a little bit more aware of that. But anyway, so to start with, it's best to start with the Tree of Life. For those of you that don't know what this is, I'm sure most of you do, but this is the Kabbalah. This is the Tree of Life, and it is, I guess you could say that it is a mystical Hebrew. You probably have a better definition for it than I do, Gwen, but it is a glyph that you can file away and map things to. Your tarot cards can be mapped to this as well. All your traditional 78 card tarot decks can all be mapped into all of these pieces. We won't go into too much in depth, but I do need to point out the structure of this just a little bit for those that don't know. You'll see these circles on here, and these are known as collectively as the Sephiroth and individually as Sephira. And then you see these interconnecting paths. So that's the terminology I'll be using for this. These are called pillars, where you see these lines that come down through the middle. These are called pillars. I think I'm going to get this correct. Like, again, it's backwards. I believe right here is my pillar of mercy. Am I seeing it right? Okay, yeah, my pillar of mercy, my pillar of severity, and then this is known as the pillar of mildness. This pillar here is very important in the deck. Everything hinges off of this pillar here, and you'll see that in a little while. We'll keep coming back to this idea, and especially in this Sephira here, number 6, which is known as Tiferet. This is where she spends a good amount of time, because if you think of this as God or the heavens moving down to earth, there's your direct connection. Right there. Earth would be here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this direct connection, and she makes that very prominent in her deck. And we'll see that in just a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the tarot cards are mapped to this, your aces all live in here, all four of them. All four
Mm-hmm.
of your twos are here, your threes, fours, fives, six, seven, eight, nines, and tens. And they make this lightning flash
Mm-hmm.
that kind of goes down. And that's kind of traditional, how most of us are educated in the Tree of Life. However, she does not do that. She, yeah, she ignores the lightning flash.
Good for her.
Right? Yeah. She sees it in a completely different way. But that's why the number, I just wanted to point that out to show you where the numbers are and why they are there.
Yeah, and we're in number 10, right? Here on
Yes,
Earth.
this is us down here in number 10. Yeah,
okay.
We are. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I leave something out, please stop me. Because it gets a little, it's gonna be fun. Okay, so your court cards are also mapped into your Sephiroth here. And we can see where the twos are here. This is where your kings, and we're going to call them kings. I'm going to try not to get too messed up on the terminology of court cards because she calls them kings.
Yeah.
So those of you that have your deck with you, then this will make sense. Your king, all four of your kings are mapped here. Your queens are mapped over here to the three. This is Hokmah. This is Binah. All of your princes are mapped here in the sixes and Tiferet, and then all of your princesses are down here in Malkut at the bottom. This is earth. So this is fire. This is water. This is air, and this is earth. So that's the basic structure that you really need to know about how the court cards map to the Sephiroth. All of your trump cards are then mapped into the paths, and that's pretty simple, pretty standard stuff. We won't spend as much time on the court cards and how they're mapped because it's very traditional, and that information can be gotten from anywhere really. She doesn't veer off too much on the on the trump cards, the major arcana. So now that we've looked at that really quick, we can take a quick look at.
Because the elements are quite important, aren't they? Fire and water and air and earth. I mean, they are anyway. With the tarot cards, but I think with this deck, they are particularly.
This is an elemental deck. Especially when we start getting the cards out, you will see that it is an elemental deck. And I've lost one of my diagrams here. I don't know what I've done. We may have to look at it. Words. It must have fallen out, or my cat took it. My cat was playing around with this stuff this morning, and I had it all organized. And
the Kabbalah cat.
I know, yeah, aren't they all? If you'll excuse me for 1 second, sorry about that. Let me just get up.
Okay. So I'm going to look at my beautiful deck here while you're finding your cards, because I drew 3 cards today for our reading. I think I've still got them here. And I drew the Prince of Discs, and I drew the Princess of Discs, and the Six of Discs. So you can see that they're all really abstract. But at the same time, I think when you're looking at them, you can tell, well, there's something going on here. I just don't know what it is. But absolutely beautiful cards.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
I had everything prepared, and then okay. So these are backwards too for me.
Okay.
Are you reading that correct?
Yes,
that looks right.
Yes.
Okay. So the best I can figure, and you can do this any way that you want if you should choose to organize your deck. And I suggest you do that with all decks. Put them in all kinds of orders. It's a really good way to get to know them. But this is what the progression might look like. Also, this is what all 4 elements would look like. And a lot of these pronouns, I give these pronouns away for free, so we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah. So that one is the wrong way around for us.
Yeah, I didn't print this.
But yeah, just to say to people that are
Just to
looking,
show
it's
you that this
yeah.
is all the cards in the deck and map
Mhm.
out by each element. So we're gonna
Yeah.
focus on the element of air, because that's seems to be a very important element to her. Is where she
Okay.
begins the deck. She begins them all with air.
How interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she sees the air is coming down, straight down to from
Okay.
breath, and so everything hinges
Okay.
off of that first.
Yeah, like olive. Yeah. Oh, that makes
Mhm,
sense. Yeah.
mhm.
Okay.
So she has in her progression, she said in you would read this in the book that comes with your deck too, that she really felt that the separation of the trump cards away from the courts and the minor arcana was it was just too divisive. Like, she felt the flow should be better.
Mm-hmm.
That the decks needed to move in a progression, instead of having this part over here and then this one
Mm-hmm.
progressing over here, where you have these kind of loops of things happening that you have to try to
Mm-hmm.
overlap.
Mm-hmm.
She saw it different. So what
Mm-hmm.
she does is, because this is an elemental deck, the first thing she's going to do is she's going to start with her aces.
Mm-hmm.
And the all the aces, like I said before, are housed in up here. We're going to have all of our
Catcher.
aces up here.
Mm-hmm.
What she says, the way that she describes it is that card attracts its elemental trump card. And
Okay.
that's what she calls them, the elemental trumps. And those would be the trump cards in your deck that are the ones that represent the element of air. Only no other astrological or zodiac or planet or anything else, just air. So, for example, like air would be the Fool,
Mm-hmm.
water is the Hanged Man.
Mm-hmm.
The fire would be the Judgment card, and earth would be the World. And those are considered your
Okay.
elemental trumps. So when you begin with an ace of the deck, then she said you proceed to its elemental trump. And that's kind of what's happening here. We go from the ace.
Mm-hmm.
See it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If
Yes.
we're in the suit of air, then we go to the Fool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Fool then attracts its first court card in that progression,
Mm-hmm.
which in the suit of air would be the Prince of Swords. And the Fool in this deck
Wow.
looks like this. I always love to put these up together because people can then see
Oh
the
yeah, you
colors.
can really see it. Oh yeah, the yellow and the green, especially with the
Yeah,
thaw. But
all of
um,
these are painted to the Golden Dawn color scales. So I always like to kind of
okay.
put those up there so people can understand and see that.
Oh yeah,
The
that's great.
color of these elemental trumps are very important in the progression of the court cards and the rest of the deck as well. So and we'll get into the color of this later. But what we do is we move on from the Fool, and we attract the first court card, which would be the Prince of Swords, since we're looking at the element of air.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this is where it gets really, really different and really interesting. So now that we have moved on to begin to look at where the court cards are on here,
Mm-hmm.
we've started up here with the ace.
Mm-hmm.
We've attracted the Fool. The first court that we attract is here, and
Oh.
that is your Prince of Swords. Now we're going to hop over to now we're going to start to look at what comes underneath here. And what comes underneath the court cards is what she considers as being having an affinity towards or attracting to. So everything that's going to be a part of the the next set, you can see 6s and 9s. So we're going to go from the ace to the trump to the first court. Then you'll see a 6 and a 9.
Okay.
And that's because that's your element of air, the 6 and the 9s. We aren't counting the 10 because the 10 is seen as its own solitary piece down on Earth.
Okay.
So it attracts the 6 and the 9. The next thing we're going to do in the progression is you're going to move to the next element, which would be the Queen of Swords. And so we're still in the element of air. This is all the element of air. But now we were looking at the air of air. Now we're looking at the water of air. And all of your queens are here. And so everything that is on this pillar with the queens would be the 3s, the 5s, and the 8s. So in that progression, you see that that's what kind of happens too. I believe that if you purchase the deck for the first time, I think that's the order everything is in.
It was.
Yes, pay attention
I was
when you get
absolutely.
I didn't know what was going on when I first started.
I thought, who put this deck together?
Right. So it moves on. Then it moves on to the kings and the element of fire next. And then in that progression, you have the kings, you have the 2s, 4s, and the 7s.
Okay.
Is the way that progresses. Then we'll move to the element of earth, which only captures the 10, because that's all there.
Okay.
So that's why it has this strange progression for every element. So we'll go back through this. The ace to the elemental trump to the first court card, and that first court card of air is going to house the 6s and the 9s. The next court card of water will house the 3s, 5s, and 8s. The next court card of fire will house the 2s, 4s, and 7s. And then the last court card of earth will only house the 10. We'll look at these in just a second, but that's kind of how that progression works, and that repeats itself for every element in the whole deck. So you can see we've only used one trump card here. And if you repeat this for every 4 element, then we've only used 4 trump cards. That leaves us with a good handful of trump cards. And where do you put them? And this is the part that is still kind of a mystery to me. I think I've reconciled it in my mind, and we'll talk about it. Ithell Colquhoun felt that these cards needed to be mapped in based on their original Golden Dawn titles and their elemental affinities based on those titles. And it's a new concept to me, and probably to most of you. If someone out there has information, I would love to hear it, because I've been trying to figure this one out for a while, but I'll explain to you what I know. So when it comes to the elemental affinities, the titles in these cards, and if you have this deck, you notice there's these weird titles on the bottom that are not like your Rider-Waite Smith decks, and they are not like your Thoth decks. They're different, but these are the traditional Golden Dawn titles that were listed as instructions for creating tarot decks, is what they are. So the groups that were put together were there are the children, which are air. There are the daughters, which is water. There are the lords, which are fire, and that's not the same thing as the lords in the minor arcana. When we're speaking lords in the trump cards, those are looped into the element of fire. And then there are the magi, which are with earth. And I had a hard time kind of reconciling that. My assumption is that I guess the magicians are earthlings trying to manipulate the kids. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because under that grouping, let me get my other chart out. So how that works out is that so in the element of air,
Mm-hmm.
you have the lovers, death, the chariot, and the moon. And so you see all these water cards, and then on
Yeah.
air. So that part of it, even though this is an elemental deck, it puts
Mm-hmm.
these water cards under air because they're considered the children or the princes.
I see. Okay. And that's all in book T? Are these instructions or something
Yeah, I
else?
mean the titles are in there, but those what Ithell Colquhoun decided were elemental affinities. I was not able to find anything about that in
Okay, I
there,
see.
and
Interesting.
so it is still it's still quite a bit of a mystery. But
Hmm.
yeah, just so that we don't spend too
Yeah.
much time on something none of us know about.
That's
Especially
right.
if someone
Maybe it was,
does speak up.
yeah, well, maybe it was part of that automatic process, you
It
know?
certainly could be. It
Yeah.
certainly could be. So you have under the element of water, you have the Empress, Strength, Justice, Temperance, and the Star.
Hmm.
Because these are all considered daughters. And
Hmm.
this one kind of makes sense to me because there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
figures
Yeah.
in these cards, and they're considered daughters. The element of fire is the Emperor, the Wheel, the Devil, the Tower, and the Sun, and some of those are pretty easily reconciled and as to being
Mm-hmm.
the fire element. And then your four magi are the juggler, the hierophant, the priestess, and the hermit, and that kind of makes sense too as far as the
Mm-hmm.
magicians of the deck.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's that's where all of these guys break down.
Oh,
I wish I had the explanation, but I don't.
yeah.
But that's where they are if you want to organize your deck and you want to study that a little bit further yourself. So
Fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's let me grab.
So it's always the same, because I'm interested in the order of the elements too, because I usually go with, the Thoth Tarot, so fire, water, air, earth, and it's always that same order. But it sounds like the order here is always air, water, fire, earth.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, she.
Okay.
And I think that the best I can figure, I think it's because of the air is on this middle pillar here.
Right. Yeah.
Then I think they want to see. Yes, I'm getting ready to show some examples on the deck. I think someone just asked, and we will. We're going to go through them here in just a second when we get to
Yes.
color. But I think that the air is important because of this.
Yes.
This middle pillar and the direct connection to God,
Yes.
head, whatever you may consider this here. So
Yes.
for sure, yes. Yeah. So with the this will be a good segue into color too. With the progression of the deck, I'm just going to grab the fire one here. I keep this deck separated into 4 packs by elements.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I think that you know what, let's do earth because you pulled some earth cards today, so we'll go through
Yeah, I
that.
did. Yeah.
We'll do
Okay.
that one. We'll go through earth, but you can see
Okay.
we start with this trump. I'm sorry, ace. We start with the ace. In her system, aces are with the she uses the color of indigo. Some use black, some use green, some use brown, but she uses indigo in here. So sometimes in the deck it's a little bit hard to see
Mm-hmm.
maybe the variation in between
Mm-hmm.
some of the darker blues and the indigo, but that's definitely what's going on there. So we can see this is the element of earth with indigo, which, oh, I got my ace stuck in there. Hold on one second. Got my ace in the wrong place.
And the colors are all from their set, aren't they? They're not, there's like, she's using from a chart basically of what she could choose for the aces. Is that right? Or
Yeah, yeah. It's that.
just because I mean, I used to look at them and think, well, that's so pretty. I wonder why she chose, because well, and sometimes they're not that pretty, actually. You just think, why would you choose that shade of yellow? That's awful.
Mhm.
And so, but it has nothing to
No,
do with,
this is what this is the Golden Dawn color scales all in one place.
wow. And you made that, and that's your chart, isn't it? That's your
Yes,
chart.
these are, yeah, I'll give these away for free too. I made them for me. So all these things I make for me, I give away. But
Great.
and it's really hard to see all this. I just couldn't think of a better way to do it. But yes, all the cards, the colors in the cards of this the Thoth deck, and to some degree the Rider-Waite Smith, are chosen from these color systems.
Okay. Okay.
For sure, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so back to these decks,
Yeah.
so that we can kind of go through. We'll go through the
Mm-hmm.
element of Earth here. So we have the indigo of Earth here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now going to attract its elemental trump card, which is the world. So we can see there's
Okay.
still a lot of indigo going on in here. I'm
Yeah.
going to tilt these so
Yeah.
there's no glare, even though they're a little hard to see.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move into the first court card that is attracted to it. So the interesting thing about this is no matter which element we're in, she always goes to air first. And that's
Oh.
something that I got out of Amy Hill's book.
Okay.
That's the way that Amy Hill organized them, and the
Mm-hmm.
way based on Ithell Colquhoun's writings.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to we start with the element of air in Earth. So this is the air of Earth. So like I said, so we're in the princes here. So if
Mm-hmm.
we're still in the middle pillar, we're going to attract a 6. If you recognize this pink color here, that's Tiferet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the color of Tiferet there, in the
Ah.
king scale. And we'll talk about
The
that in a
Kings.
couple minutes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She does that a little different too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the 6s and the 9s, and so we
Okay.
have and these are the minor arcana, and they will have.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about the color system there, but so we'll have 6
Yeah.
and 9, and then we're going to go to the queens,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
are the I think we're going to have the 3s,
Mm-hmm.
5s,
Mm-hmm.
and the 8s running down these pillars down the side.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Underneath.
And then we're going to come to the king,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be the 2s, the 4s, and did I get that right? Was that the 2s? Yep, the 4s and the 8s, and I've got the 7s.
Yeah. And that indigo colors in all of them.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yes. And so then we go to the Prince of Dis, the princess. Sorry, which then goes into the 10 of discs only. And then we
Okay.
have the 4 remaining trump, which are mapped based on elemental affinities and titles. And so those titles do look down here. If we can see, I don't know,
Magician.
if the camera can focus on that. And those are going to be backwards. So all of these have the word magus in the title,
Yeah.
with the exception of the
Okay.
thesis. And that would be kind of the marker in your deck if you're looking for it, just to remember that those trump cards
Mm-hmm.
are based on their title. They're based on the title, how they fall into a particular element. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So yeah, let's take a peek then at some color stuff, and so we can get into showing some decks, so that it makes a little bit. It does make it a whole lot easier than these crazy diagrams. It's just hard for me to lay all those cards out
No, I
for you guys.
that's right. No,
See.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love my charts. I absolutely love charts. So, and these charts I think are available on your website, Numinous Press, aren't they? So people can go there and download these amazing charts and fill them in yourself. And yeah.
Yep. It's true. It's true. Is there a specific reason that I keep the elements separated? Yeah, that's how I feel. This is to Amethyst Tarot. I think that's, I can barely read it, but yes, the question is there a specific reason that Heather keeps the elements separated? It is not, that is because that's how Ithell Colquhoun did it. These are elemental decks, and her progression are listed. The way that she displayed these cards,
Mm-hmm.
with one gallery showing that they had in 1977, this is the way she displayed them.
Oh,
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, she displayed them specifically by element. And so the next question is, when you're reading, do you mix them? That's an interesting question, because these are not necessarily cards that are always used for readings, and she didn't believe that they should be either.
Interesting.
Yes, she believed in using tarot cards more of a learning tool and a meditation tool, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely separated them from some more what she would consider fortune telling divination acts. She did believe in some use of divination, but not. These were intended for meditation purposes, and because using the process and using the color system that she did, she felt just like the Golden Dawn when it does or did when they developed the
Mm-hmm.
system, that these colors are entities themselves that can be
Mm.
contacted. And
Really?
yeah, that
Wow.
these are energies and things that can actually be worked with magically. And so
Ah.
she saw the deck as that, and thought of it as something that could be used in more of a meditation, or maybe even a ceremonial type of environment,
Mm-hmm.
more than divination
Mm-hmm.
itself. Yeah. It's kind of fascinating.
Mm. Yeah, very interactive kind of meditation then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the article I wrote about it, that was one of my suggestions, because it's what I do. Now, the way I use them
Mm-hmm.
is that I do, while I'm really learning a card. Um, it is nice to have those colors to meditate on, because
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it was her intention too, you're going directly to the source. You
Mm-hmm.
are using that automatic process by bypassing your conscious mind and
Mm-hmm.
going straight to the subconscious, because you're looking at something that doesn't make any sense. And that's the
Exactly.
whole point of the automatic process, is to get ourselves
Okay.
worked into this state that that doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. And now we're free. So I think
Okay.
that was really more her intention with it, more than actually reading the deck. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of people have a hard time reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I am now to the point where I've looked at some of them so much, I know as soon as I see it, but I am equating it now with either a Rider-Waite-Smith card of the
Mm-hmm.
same. It's like learning a second language almost.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
in that phase of having to translate, but there's a few of them I know immediately what it is. And now when I look at my cards, especially in the Thoth deck, because a lot of the colors are so similar, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I immediately have this like image in my head of
Wow.
of something like this,
Yeah.
uh, as being
Wow.
the picture of the energy that comes from, the place that comes from. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's it's not only progresses different and color different, but there's a different way of looking at it as well too.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, so let's look at let's kind of look at how the colors break down, and this part gets a little complex. But at least we're going to use
Because the first part
cards
wasn't
now.
complex.
I know. It's so hard. It's so hard not to go off on tangents in this stuff. But, so yeah, we mentioned the Golden Dawn color scales already. Just to reiterate, they were developed many years ago. Within the Golden Dawn order, and those color scales were used not only for the system of how tarot cards should be painted, but they used them in painting ceremonial rooms and meditation rooms. They were also used as ways to check visions, astral visions, when someone came back
Mm.
from meditation. Like, what colors did you see? And then you could chart that to the Kabbalah,
Wow.
and find out what entity that you might be communicating with, or on what plane you're communicating with something. So these colors had a lot of meaning in the Golden Dawn, and they weren't just, so it's not just a color system that was just chosen, like, oh, this would be pretty to make it these colors, or I think these colors look good together. It wasn't one of those. It was many, many long years of study of what was common. And this is the part I thought was interesting, what was common that people saw in astral visions of the same place under the same things.
Wow.
And yeah, there was a lot of study that would almost seem downright scientific, believe it or not, to come up with these color systems. So but that is another live for another day. Like,
Yes.
we could talk all day just about that.
Yeah.
And again, this is what they look like. There are 128 colors, and the reason that there are 128 colors is because this is only one of the color systems of the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life is seen as separating into 4 worlds. And I'm going to grab the great workbook here, because it's the only place I actually have it at this moment in time altogether small enough for you guys to see. There's your 4 worlds of color. And each Tree of Life, when you count each of the Sephira and the paths, you're going to end up with 32 pieces times 4. So there's your 128 colors. That's why there's so many. You have, and I know this one is backwards for you guys. So you might want to, if this is something you're interested in, don't take this as the law, because you're looking at it completely backwards. But we begin with the world of fire, which is called Atsubu. And then we move into the world of water. This is so backwards for me. I'm like looking at it and I'm like, where am I going? Yeah. So this is Bria, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. My Appalachian accent isn't always great in Hebrew. My tongue wants to do its own thing. Anyway, the world of air, which is Yetzirah, and then we have the world of earth, which is Asaya. Okay, so I couldn't read it looking at the screen, sorry. But it's broken down into element as well, these 4 worlds. And I just kind of wanted to show you what that looks like. The only thing in her deck that focuses on all of the 4 worlds, believe it or not, are the trump cards. That is the only thing in the deck. Different from the Thoth deck, because in the Thoth deck, Lady Frida Harris separates everything out to its specific position and color throughout every card in the deck. The Tarot's color does not do that with anything but the trumps.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know, I'll try to see if we can see it here. This right here is the path of the Fool, right here. And you see in this world it's yellow, in this one it's blue, in this one it's green, and in this one down here it's also green, but it's got a little black flecked pattern. That's where these colors that you see in the Thoth deck come in, and even in the Rider-Waite-Smith. And this is too. That's where those colors.
So interesting.
Each one of those paths are combined together in the tarot cards, so that all 4 colors are represented in there. All 4 worlds together end up in the trumps. That is not the case in a lot of the in the minor arcana, the Thoth deck and the Rider-Waite. They have a different color system that is unique to each world that the card is representing, but the trump cards are different. They represent all 4 worlds at once. And in Tarot's color, she's doing the exact same thing that Pamela Coleman Smith and Lady Frida Harris did in these decks. So this is traditional right here. The trump card colors are traditional. The only thing she did not do traditionally was put the archetypes in there to grab your attention. She wanted to go straight to the source of just the color. So there you can see that there. So you can kind of see that there. I wish I had better color. But if you're interested in that, I do have a video, and there are on my YouTube, and there's links in my bio that you can get to if you want to know more about how this works. I have a whole video on that.
Yes,
So I'm not.
it's a great video. It's a great video.
It was a
Well,
hard one
so
to
just
make.
yeah, I mean, I know. Just briefly, briefly. So, what are the four worlds?
Okay. Um, the four worlds of the Kabbalah are let me get that back up here. We'll look at it again. Are representative of the elements, but they're also representative of the tetragrammaton. And again, that's another discussion that could go on for a couple of hours just by itself. But the tetragrammaton is the four-letter name for God, and each of these worlds represents one of those letters. But each of these worlds also represents one of the elements as well, one of the suits of the tarot. So you can kind of link them all together. So, you know, if we're looking at, we're looking in here at the world of fire, that's also that's going to be the letter Yod in the tetragrammaton, but it's also going to be the element of fire. It's going to be the wands suit of the tarot cards, and it progresses the same way with all four of them. So that's why there's four worlds, so that we can make that distinction. Does that answer the question, I think, that you wanted?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, just sort of, you know, how to visualize things because yeah, it's hard to visualize them sort of taken apart, and because that's kind of how I picture the tree of life and the four worlds is things kind of separated out from, and if you put everything back together, you know, you have them all in one, but separating them into fire, water, air, and earth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really, if you take all of these concepts and you get them down into, if you separate, as part of the video that I have, if you separate everything down into some elemental idea, then that is the basis for everything in any of these esoterics, in any of this, you know, especially in the Golden Dawn system. It all begins with the four elements, and you can hinge everything off those four elements and start to make connections of a lot of different things, once you get that concept down, for sure.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So with as far as the color, so we looked at the color scales and then the trump cards and how they're built. And then now we're going to look at the court cards, and she does the court cards very, very different than any deck I've ever seen, and it makes me excited because the court cards are some of my favorite cards in the deck, and I believe that they are a lot of times overlooked. I'm just pulling my court cards out so we can see them.
Yeah.
So we looked at the Fool. And we're going to go back to the Fool so we can, there we go, there he is. So we can understand what's going on here in these decks. So there again, here we are with the Fool, with that four color system of the Fool. Now, what she did in this deck is she takes this color system and repeats it for every single one of the court cards in that deck is the Fool. The shocking thing I noticed is one of the things that my son and I had always looked at. He was very into tarot, and he would say, "Hey, why is this lady green?" or something like that. Things kids ask. Yes. And I would go, I don't really know when I'm just looking at, you know, I couldn't find an explanation. Well, if you really look, I think that Lady Frida Harris may have been doing the same thing too. You start to see this kind of Fool color system running through the Thoth deck as well. But this is how she does it. This is how the tarot's color is organized. So we have the Fool with this color scheme. It's then repeated when we get to, oh, you know what? There's sirens coming, so I may have to pause for a second. I
Okay.
live on a very, very busy street next to a fire department, so that's why I don't have videos. So hold on 1 second.
Oh,
Yeah,
very exciting.
the dogs like to sing the siren song too.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, so we'll start with this color system in the full. We'll put it back up here so we can see it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
She replicates this color system again when we get into the court cards. And so here we're looking at the Prince of Swords. But what she does is in the center of it, she lets us know what element we're talking about. We're still in the swords. This is the court of the swords, which is called the color of the Fool, which is the card of air.
Right.
So they're all going to be looking like that just to visually make you remember, oh yeah, I think she thought you're supposed to know this, right? You're supposed to know this air. You know,
Yes.
so if you get those
yes.
elements in your head, then these start to make a lot of sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in the center of this, we're going to continue with the yellow for air. Then the Queen of Swords is going to have blue in the center.
Mm-hmm.
The King will have fire, red in the center for fire. And then we'll have the indigo for the princess.
Oh, I get it. I get that.
Yay!
I get that. Yay!
Right. The other cool thing that I made me jump up and start explaining this to my husband, which he did not. He was like, "Okay, nice job." See this little circle in here?
Yeah.
Okay. She does this with all of the court cards that are native to their element. So the princess would be native to air.
Right.
So you can see she lets you know with this little tiny thing in each one of them. So you will also see this in, let's say, the Queen of Cups of water of water, and then fire of fire, and earth of earth. Those 4 cards will have that little marker in there to let you know that this is the card that is native to its element. There.
Fantastic. So that gives you kind of an anchor. Like that's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's kind of how these are all built, and it's the same throughout all courts. They will all match
Great.
trump. Yeah. Those are fascinating. I love those. So now that we've looked at the court cards, the minor arcana are the most simplistic in the deck, but also the ones that require a little bit more thinking about. She actually making you think a little bit harder. You study these. The trumps start out pretty easy because they're traditional Golden Dawn. The court cards then get a little bit more complicated. She switches them up. By the time she gets you into the minor arcana, she's trying to say you need to think a little bit harder about this one, and I'm going to make you think a little bit harder about it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you would kind of expect it to be the other way around.
You would think, yeah.
It gets harder as you go into the trance. That's fascinating.
And I think but it also it makes it a simple, quick way of looking at something, and a quick way of going. Again, like we said before, I think she meant these as meditation tools, and so the simplicity of them is to just go directly straight to this source. And you'll see that in just a second. So let's look at one more time. I'm going to get my little tree of life things out. We're going to look at them. So we mentioned all these 4 worlds. When we are talking about court cards, she focuses solely on the world of fire, the King scale, absolute. In these color scales, this one is seen as the most pure in color. And Crowley at one point even described that you almost can't even see them as color at all because they're so pure.
Right.
And as we descend it through the elements down into earth, into matter, they become more dense. And and therefore darker and even patterned
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And
Yeah.
that was the description. Yeah, you seem to, you know, that description. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is this. Yes, I remember that, and it makes so much sense when I think I read that about the spots, and I thought, oh, I get it, why there are spots on here now, because it's not. I mean, pure is
It's not as pure,
maybe not.
and we're
Yeah.
descending into matter. And
Yes.
things are becoming more dense. They're becoming more complicated. They're becoming colored in a different way and
Mm-hmm.
organized in a different way. They're
Mm-hmm.
not these pure rays or
Yeah.
ideas of
Yeah.
color that is represented in what is called the king scale.
Mm-hmm.
So what in Ithell Colquhoun's deck, she uses the king scale as a marker for everything in the minor arcana cards, period.
Okay.
It is always in there. And we're going to look at the king scale here so we can kind of see. And are you
Mm-hmm.
seeing that the direct way? Did I pull the right one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay. So this is the king scale. We're going to focus only on this one again, because this is where she, these are the markers that she has. So these cards look something like this, and there's a system of 3 colors that she uses for each one
Mm-hmm.
of them.
Hmm.
And so this one is, I pulled one from the suit of swords. You can always tell what suit you're in based on what element you're in based on the background. The
Okay.
background color is the element that you are in. This one is yellow, so that means that we are in the suit of swords or air.
Okay.
Blue, again, blue is water, red is fire, and indigo is earth.
Okay.
So we have that. That is our first marker. The second marker, and I always have to look at my notes because I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around these. Even though they're the most simple looking ones in the deck, I have to look at my notes. This color in here
Mm-hmm.
would be the Sephira it lives in the king scale. So we're going to, what did I pull? I pulled the 3 of swords. So my
Okay.
printout's a little dark, but that's supposed to be kind of a crimson red color.
Okay.
And so that's what this is. And the
Oh.
other complex thing about what's in the center of this, it goes back to the way we described how the court cards are mapped down the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what pillar this is on, because
Mm-hmm.
this is a 3
Mm-hmm.
that puts it on the pillar of severity, which puts
Mm-hmm.
it under the queens,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be the cups, right?
Ah.
So that's
The blue.
the blue,
Okay.
water.
Okay.
So that's it. It's so hard to explain something so simple looking,
Mm-hmm.
but she requires that you kind of understand your Kabbalah a
Mm-hmm.
little bit to
Mm-hmm.
break these down. These took me a good long time to kind of
Mm-hmm.
to finally get my
Work
head.
through.
I had to read Amy Hale's the 2 paragraphs Amy Hale wrote. I read over and over and over again to try and grasp what was really, really going on in this system, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who's familiar with the Kabbalistic colors. I've been using them for quite a long time, but I
Mm-hmm.
still have to kind of use my notes for these. But yes, that's how they work. Let's look at one from another suit so that we can. We haven't looked enough at the suit of water. I think they're really beautiful. You know, you have the Hanged Man.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got the Hanged Man, and then those colors tend to replicate
Mm-hmm.
through your quartz.
Uh-huh.
But here we go. Here we have the 6 of Cups, and we're in the element of water.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the Sephira of Tiferet, which is the pink, and
Mm-hmm.
court card that it would have affinity that with this would be the princes, and that's where the yellow comes from. So that's how
Okay.
you yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah, it
I'm
takes a
getting
minute.
it.
It does. It really, really
Yeah.
takes. We'll look at another one. Um, let's find one that is really kind of. Here we go. Let's look at this one. This is also in the suit of water. We got the seven. We got the 7 of cups here. So we're still in the cups. So that means the
Okay.
background is going to be blue.
Water. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And wait. So the orange is the Saphira color. Is that so? That's well. I know the sevens are Netzach. So
Mm-hmm.
in the king scale, it must be orange.
Yes.
And then the red reflects the fact that it's on the pillar of mercy.
Yes. Yeah. And the lady's like, yes, okay, high five again. You got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you did this because this is so much easier explaining and talking than when I wrote that crazy article. I was like, I sent it out because I needed to, and I was like, no one will understand this
No,
at
it's
all.
brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great.
But that's how she organizes the color on these things.
Okay.
And so now you can kind of see why she believes that they are kind of used as meditation tools, as learning tools, because they're almost like Kabbalistic flashcards that are giving you. When you get to the minor arcana, if you don't know your stuff, you just think of this as a blob of color.
Yes, absolutely.
If you spend the time learning your stuff, then you start to see something much, much deeper. I don't know. I often feel. I could almost feel her laughing now. That
yes.
finally figuring it out.
Yeah.
I know that I had read in her biography that she was a very opinionated woman, and would call out certain orders if they didn't get things right. So, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how those color systems work.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the idea, when you're talking about, it seems like it suits this deck that a teacher can point. I just saw this. I think this must have come up because I was going to be talking to you today. I just saw this on Instagram, and it's this reminder that a teacher can point to wisdom and understanding, but can't give it to you. And so they're like signposts. And so it's like particularly with the minors, it's signposts. And because when I'm sitting here thinking about all those things together, I'm thinking about that card really differently than if look at anything else, any other deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've said in the article, I had so many people ask me, like, how do you read it? How do you read it?
Yeah.
And at the time, I almost didn't even know. And I was still under this mindset that everything was I'm like, these are the color scales. Everything's going to fit into this, these Kabbalistic color scales. And then I started finding discrepancies, and I myself started questioning what I was seeing. And I thought, what, this is not random. This can't be random. Once I finally read Amy Hale's description, and that's the thing, like this book that could have been purchased with the deck, this one is out of print. It is out.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, and like all other esoteric books, you can find copies of it, but it's ridiculously expensive.
It's like $400, yeah.
Sites, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of a description in the little book that you have, but Amy Hill breaks it down in this book, and that's how I know that. But since this is out of print, I was like, it would be a really good opportunity to share this kind of stuff with people, because it took Amy Hale's description for me to really, really wrap my head around how phenomenal this progression of the deck is, and what she had actually done here. Yeah. It's a lot deeper than you realize when you first look at it, for sure.
Well, I think that's your next job, is to write another book for us.
Gosh. I barely got the article written.
Well, I also wanted to ask you about, because in the deck, when you get the deck, it comes in this lovely white box, and they're actually really big cards they're pretty big cards. Got my Thoth Tarot here. I'll show you just the distance and the cards. They're bigger than Thoth. But it comes with this really nice little booklet that's got a quote on the front, and I just wanted to read that and ask what you thought of that, Heather. It says, and this is a quote from Ithell herself. She says, "After I had completed the pack, I saw some slides showing nebulas in outer space and the birth of stars. These recalled my designs and confirmed my conviction of their cosmographic function." So what do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I remember the first time that I opened that deck and I saw that quote, I stopped for a minute, and I definitely, I got a little misty-eyed over it, because I felt something, here's the voice of this woman, long gone, and who had, again, like I said, this tarot deck is the combination of her whole life's work. And I think maybe now that we've gone through how it's organized, you can begin to it, and other people can begin to see it as that, rather than something that is just blobs of color, maybe to some people, abstract paintings to others. There was more of a great intention behind it. She was definitely I think the term for it is she was very into animism of things, how she believed there was life in everything. And someone her age, the progression of society that she would have seen in her lifetime. I think about my grandparents and great-grandparents and what they saw through their lifetime, how fast we're progressing right now, and how stressful that actually is to all of us that are living now. But she lived in a time where she got to see this amazing amount of progress. And there's another quote from her where she said, that Amy Hill uses in the beginning of her book, that she said, "I always knew my mind." She was caught up on these things when she was a child, before she understood occultism, before she studied these things. She was caught up on these things in nature, and then she just had this natural intuition where she knew about them. And so I think she probably understood these things already when she's making the deck, when she's creating all her paintings. Then again, to sometime in her elderly years, to be shown these images of these nebulas and all of this stuff, and to immediately know that that's where this was coming from. She always believed that these were the transmissions, that these were direct to the source of the energies of another dimension, whatever we want, whatever word we want to apply to it. She was connecting directly to it, and to her, seeing what those nebulas look like was the proof that she was right all along. That they came from, that these came from the stars.
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry.
I know. What a great way to end.
That was, yes, that's right. Everybody crying. Oh, well, that was absolutely fascinating, and I'm just so glad that you could come and tell us about this, because I mean, you made it very clear. I don't know how you managed to explain all those things and make them clear.
I don't either.
But we really appreciate it, and just to show everybody, I just want to show everybody this workbook that Heather's been referring to, but look how much stuff is in here. And there's astrology, and there's all kinds of things for you to fill in. Let me find some, and there's fold-out things. And so it's for learning tarot. And let's see, it says, "A Steady Aid for Tarot Symbolism." And the website, now what's the quote for your website? I don't have the bookmark. It's like resources and gifts for people who are interested in occult things, something like that.
Study aids and gifts for students of the inner arts.
That's right. I was close.
I tried to make that as generic as possible
Yeah,
to
no, that's
everyone.
fantastic.
Yeah, the book is it is a journal for tarot card symbolism, like she said, and it has many activities in it so that you can chart the symbols on your tarot cards
Hmm.
yourself and it works for any 78 card deck. It doesn't have to be one specific one, and it also has lots of journal pages, specific journal pages for you to write these things down, and kind of gives you a little bit of not necessarily prompts, but sidebars where you can put in specific information. So yeah, that's what that's all about. And
That's
all of that
great.
stuff is, there's a link in my bio to everything. So
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to Gwen for putting this all together, and
Yeah.
for being such a great supporter of mine. And it's been so much fun getting to know you during this process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
now
It's been an
a
absolute pleasure.
family
Yeah.
friend, and I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and thanks so much to TABI Tarot for hosting this. It's nice that we get to share some stuff with some people across the big ocean.
Exactly.
I'm happy
Exactly.
about that. Very, very happy about that. And of course, to Folger Press for making this deck, and Amy
Oh,
Helen
yeah.
so for
Yeah.
bringing her this information on this woman, this amazing person, and her tarot,
Yeah.
so that people
Yeah.
are talking about it today. I just wanted to make sure I did that before we.
Yeah. It's even scented, isn't it? I think it's one of these decks that's scented, so it's
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah. I think, I don't know if mine didn't get the scenting or not,
Oh.
but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. As a printer, I like the smell of paper, and I love the smell of all decks when I take them out of
Yes.
the pack. I'm like,
Yes.
ink and paper.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. So you're the one in old bookstores going
That's me.
sniffing the books. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Heather. Really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Thank you.
And yes, we will see you soon. And
Yes.
thanks very much.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye,
listening.
everybody. Have a good afternoon, evening. Bye.
Bye.